Item number 2 is to review and approve the March 29, 2016 meeting minutes. Floor is open.
We don't have anything on the minutes.
Mr. Chairperson, we do have one that we'd like to address. Mr. Smith.
On page 2, near the bottom, it'd be right at the end of school calendar when Sarah was talking. Right after it says, Mrs. Fair addressed Superintendent Sullivan and inquired if those times that Ms. Berglund referenced are noted as professional development hours for the elementary teachers. And I thought it would be appropriate to add Dr. Sullivan's response. And Dr. Sullivan stated that it is a professional development activity that occurs during the regular workday, and the district hires substitutes. And then, Mrs. Fair, you asked, does it count in the larger scheme of professional development? You said we have X amount of days, so is it part of those days? And then Dr. Sullivan said the answer to that is no. I thought it was important to possibly add the answer to your question. But you'll have to. Okay.
Dr. Sullivan, do you need to research that more? Is that
No, I thought sounds accurate to me.
okay? So
I'm just giving Ms. Peters a little time here.
yeah.
See if perhaps we can get corrected copies.
Did you get the wording, Mrs. Peterson? Mr. Smith?
I think I
I wrote it.
You could just hand it to her.
I'm sorry. Well,
It sounds right to me.
Thank you.
first time I was scribbling. And that's probably not much better.
Other than that, I think we're
I
okay
didn't
to
even
write.
notice that.
Yeah,
was-
other than that, it was excellent.
When opening, I remember the answer. I don't remember. There was a lot to put in there.
Other than that, Mr. Chair, I do believe that we're okay with the remainder of minutes as such.
Okay, with that one correction, I'll wait and give Ms. Peters a little time.
Do you want to hand that? I handed my minutes to him to get rid of the ones that aren't right. Sure. Then we don't accidentally have the wrong ones. See this? I don't remember if I showed that to you, but this will be proposed. Okay, so we'll just go into that in case we get a chance to do that. Let me back that language on this one. Did you hand me that? I'm just putting these together. I don't think we're gonna get that far tonight, really. No, maybe even to Doug, maybe, because we're not ready. Yeah. See, there's still.
The text in red is what's been added. And these are the new ones.
That's good. After doing that.
Satisfactory?
That's fine, thank you.
Okay. Okay, that takes care of item Roman numeral number 2, and we move on to Roman numeral number 3. Floor is open.
Mr. Chairman,
There.
late last week, I became aware of some information that I think would inform our discussion here, and it relates to financial information that gives me a concern. And I asked if Dr. Sullivan would tell all of us about it together. I don't have all the details, but if he could give us all that information at one time, I think that might help us in our deliberations.
Okay. As most people in the room are probably aware, we do an enrollment count every month. And we received the enrollment count late Thursday for the month of March. And in the month of March, the enrollment in the school district declined by 39 students, which means that for the school year, we are now 134 students less than we were in September. And March marks the first time this school year where we've been in a month where our enrollment in March of this year was lower than it was in March of 2015. And so consequently, you might be aware that, well, I know you guys were at the meeting when we requested permission from the Budget Committee to move forward with some additional services and programs and positions. One being a counselor at the high school, excuse me, and the other being an emotionally disturbed program, center-based emotionally disturbed program for grades K-5. And as a result of these numbers, I've placed both of those hiring processes on hold. They may not get implemented. And further, we had permission from the Budget Committee, I think 2 or 3 months ago, to add a 16th section of kindergarten. We are no longer tracking where we need that 16th section. The assistant superintendent, I believe the last number he gave me was an estimate of 302. That's a decrease from his original estimate, I believe, of somewhere around 335, somewhere in that ballpark. And so I notified the cabinet today that the district will not be proceeding to fill that 16th section unless something dramatic changes between now and the middle of summer. And then the last piece of information that the assistant superintendent shared with me, I think he may have said this in this room, but I could be wrong. I think that if he didn't, then I will. When he originally did his preliminary budget for 16-17, his marker that he put for the increase in health insurance was 8%. And he advised me this week that that has been increased to 14%. The claims information in March indicates that we continue to have some very significant claims, and the fund balance in the self-funded health insurance program for March of 2016 is a little over $385,000 less than it was in March of 2015.
What was that number again, please?
A little over 385,000.
Okay.
And I have told the assistant superintendent, based on the information that he gave me, that 14% may not be enough. And so I believe that's the information that I have to share that the parties will hopefully find useful in your future discussions. And so having said that, I'll answer any questions, or the floor is open for discussion. I forgot to say one thing. We are also looking, because we have some vacancies in the school district, we are also looking at the possibility of collapsing some of our grade levels, where we might have 3 or 4 sections down to 2 or 3 sections, in an effort to be cautious with the budget for the 16-17 school year. And I don't have the exact date, but we have asked the K-5 principals to survey their parents and get us a number of who thinks that they will be leaving when the school year is over. And that information, I think, is scheduled to come in about 2 weeks. Now I think I'm done.
So that wasn't exactly what I had in mind when I thought last time when I thought we would discuss financial information. But we should, if we have questions now, because I have some follow-ups to that, if there's any questions on this information. you guys have anything on what he just said?
Mhm.
Okay. So if we could just, do you still have your sheet that looks like this with the yellow line on it? Yeah, that one. So are there questions on anything on this sheet? Because we were going to talk about that tonight, and then I have a follow-up to what Dr. Sullivan talked about. But first, are there questions on this? Are we all okay with these figures?
I guess, not anticipating that we were going to discuss this evening, we still haven't met as a team to discuss that aspect of it. We thought we still had time.
Okay, so,
No, and we had, at the end of the week, we had new information, so
Yeah.
it was,
this is what I can tell you. In light of this new information, I've asked Mr. Reap if the school board can stand behind this information here, and we can. But we don't know how long we can stand behind the new money that's coming in, because it's going to be less, because our enrollment's down. So we want you to know that we're standing behind this for the time being, but we don't know how much longer, how long we can do that. So you need to know that, and that's what I was talking about when I left you a message, Mr. Fay. I was really thinking about these numbers right here, more than some of these other things. I mean, those have other implications for the district, but they also have some dollar implications for us at this table.
Absolutely. And I know that we, in talking with Mr. Reap, we did receive the worksheet and everything, and we, so we would like a little more time to obviously go over that, and we will do that, as soon as possible. We'll get together and do that within the next couple days, so you have my guarantee on that.
Okay. So I wanted to let you know, I didn't even have all the information. Just when I heard about the enrollment drop, I felt like that was enough to call you about and tell you, but I didn't know about a couple of the other things, so. We just need to keep that in mind as our district or our town goes through what economic up and down. This is probably going to be normal maybe for us for a while. I don't know.
Yeah, do you have any questions?
Maybe.
Any questions or comments further?
Thank you for the information.
Ms. Fair, Ms. Ricks?
No.
Anything
Well, fine.
further?
No, thank you, no.
Okay. That brings us to item Roman numeral 4. I believe there are a few items left that need to be introduced before the parties perhaps take a look at trying to come to agreement on some of the remaining items. And so, looks like the school board has the most, so do you want to go first, Ms. Fair?
Which one do you want to pick? How about this one? Okay. Looking at the negotiated agreement, the one that we talked about, titles, names, and acrimonious items. Is that this is the one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So if I could I'll just hand you out our proposed modification. What we'd like to see is just say teachers as defined by the North Dakota Century Code referenced as teachers. That's to be item F. because as we go, we have several different things listed right there, and we all know what the judge said, so we feel like that we should follow that.
Yeah.
No.
I don't have any questions.
I have no questions.
Okay. We also have the proposed changes just for removing references to school board policy. Just because it's redundant.
Has there been a problem with having it in there up till now?
Not necessarily, but what often happens with the, with our policy numbers or names with, you know, the alphabetized DJF, for example, if that has to be deleted for some reason and a new policy comes out, we have to come and change the negotiated agreement. And since it's already in school board policy, those things are, they're basically redundant. It could save us some time here at the table. For example, we do have to follow federal policy, the Family Medical Leave Act, so it doesn't really make sense to put all those things in there.
Have we done that often in the last 6-8 years?
Yeah, we pretty much do that every time, is changing language. We don't always get, if there's a new policy or a change in that letter, we don't always get it. I mean, we don't always get to change it in here, but we pretty much do it every time.
Maybe this is a good question for Dr. Sullivan. Is there a reason why they changed the policy classification, DJF,
Yes,
DDA? I mean, is there a rhyme or reason? I guess I don't know, but I've never looked at it.
The primary reason out of the descriptors changed when I arrived was my predecessor was nice enough to me to lead the whole process of revising school board policies, which is something superintendents regularly do to each other because we don't like school board policies. And what happened was the North Dakota School Board Association did go through and make significant changes.
Okay.
So some of it's dependent on who is guiding the process.
Question, just if you could, so I don't have to try and go through, can you tell me what pages each one of these are on of the negotiated agreement? I don't know if you have reference to that.
Do not, but we can look it up.
I mean, it's like 5. The first one, I'm not sure where it's at.
We can look at that.
3.
Yeah, we can
We'll
look
look
at
at
it.
it.
We'll look that up. That's not a problem. We'll take care of that.
Okay.
Yeah, the first one's on page 3, and then almost everything else is on 9 and 10.
Thank you.
The last one's on 12.
Mhm. Oops, sorry. So it's 3, page 9, page 9, page 10, page 12.
So E is on page 10.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's 3, 9, 9, 10, 12.
Perfect, thank you.
That's helpful, thank you. And Mr. Fay, often, also to answer your question, often if there's some changes, the School Boards Association may combine policies because you've got one that basically is the same as another one. And so they'll combine it and they give it a new name, a new descriptor code.
Okay,
Or if there's something new from the legislature, that's new, then they give it a new name, and so.
so do all the school boards then have the same descriptors?
Only the ones that go through the North Dakota School Boards Association. There's a lot of them that do, a
Okay.
significant number. When I first got on the board and we first started using the School Boards Association, we tried to get them to change this because none of us liked it. Why couldn't you just say what it is and have number it? And they were resistant to that suggestion. As you can see, we still have those
We still have it.
descriptors. So, yeah. Okay. Which one do you want to do
We
now?
have this one and this one. Those are the only two.
We have these two. This one?
Well, that's their topic.
Oh, that's their topic.
Mhm.
Well, all right. So we don't want to do this one?
Oh, we talked about that one last time.
We talked about that one last time, so what do we have left? I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So, we can just tell you a little bit what we were thinking on the management's rights one item. And that one, really just talks about, it actually, in a way, would help us at negotiations. It would, because we don't, oftentimes, things are brought up at negotiations that really are something that the management, the administration, or the school board does, and so they aren't really negotiated items. And they can't be negotiated items. So our
Yeah.
thoughts there,
If they can't be negotiated, okay, go ahead, Troy.
okay, so no, our thoughts would just be to have a management rights clause in our negotiated agreement that would just say, if these are the rights that the school board or the administration has, belongs to school board administrators and management.
If it's not is it my understanding though, that if it's not in the negotiated agreement, it can't be negotiated anyway?
Well, I don't know that.
Can you clarify?
You know,
what
do you mean?
because, if it's, we can only negotiate those things that are within the negotiated agreements. We don't negotiate school policy, things like that, so would that be redundant to put it in there?
I'm not sure that it would be. I know Minot has this in their negotiated agreement as well.
Is there any other school?
Not in North Dakota.
Do you know how long ago Minot put theirs in?
I do not know that, no. I have a copy of it here somewhere, but it's a
have to
very
go back.
short. Yep,
See.
yeah. Well, Minot is the only Class A school that, in North Dakota, that has management's rights. I don't know about Class Bs. I didn't research that. The first sentence of Minot's just says, except as expressly provided otherwise in this agreement, the determination and administration of school policy, the operation and management of the schools, and the direction of employees are vested exclusively in the school board. And then there's a couple other paragraphs, and then they have 4 or 5 items to establish grade levels, courses of instruction, those kinds of things. So that's our explanation on that. I don't have anything language to propose at this time. We're talking about topics. Oh, I can have them do one theirs then.
Okay.
Our expert's gone now, but we can certainly.
They have one more, don't they?
Yeah.
We do, but we thought maybe you'd like a turn. So we do that one.
Yeah.
I know that Miss Berglund, excuse me, we introduced Super Block last time, and she's the expert for that for us because none of us have Super Block. But we have talked to them. We'd open up any questions that you may have. I know she explained it pretty well about every 6 days and losing prep due to time with their administration working Super Block every 6 days. So I guess I'm not familiar enough with it to talk about it, but if you have any questions, I think that between the three of us, we've talked to enough people with it. We can certainly kind of help out.
Since we don't work in the schools, can you tell us exactly what happened in Super Block? Do you have that knowledge, or do we need to wait for Sarah to get back?
I can help.
There you go.
Every sixth day, which this year in the calendar would amount to 25 times, they have an 80-minute super block, and 40 minutes of that is their prep. So I believe it's the first 40 minutes is assigned duty, and it runs into their prep every 6th day, which would be 25, which would be 1,000 minutes, which would be 16 hours.
And so when you're saying they're meeting with administrators, what's happening?
Well, they
What are they
don't just
doing?
meet with administrators, they meet with each other, and that's another thing that's really not talked about. You just don't show up at Super Block. I mean, there's preparation. Many times there's always an agenda, which, I mean, it probably should be. And many times there's books to read, curriculum to review, and numbers to crunch, so that you show up prepared, so that you can optimize your time, I would say, and not waste it. So it's not just the 40 minutes that they lose for prep. Basically, they have to then prepare for a prep. Yeah, if that makes any sense.
So is this on a grade level or one-on-one with the principal? How is it conducted?
Grade level.
So like
Right.
all the 3rd grade teachers? Okay.
Is this the same thing as professional learning communities? Is that the right terminology? Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's probably as far as I should explain without.
So if we have
I'm sure we could
in-depth
recruit
questions.
It's not part of professional learning communities, I guess, but save that question.
Actually, isn't that part of it?
Yeah. So I guess it was my understanding that the professional learning communities were part of your prep because you're collaborating and working with each other to develop the way that you're teaching and your lesson plans. Is that not correct?
Can I respectfully ask that maybe we table this, because like I said, Sarah is our K-5, and I don't want to misinform you guys.
Okay.
I mean, I know what our professional learning community is, but I don't know what theirs is, and I didn't ask that question.
Okay.
I only got the 25 days and that kind of thing. I mean,
you have any questions you think they can answer?
I don't want to give you any
No,
misinformation.
probably not. Probably not, I don't think.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
We'll
thank
wait
you.
until we have our expert back.
Thanks.
We appreciate that.
Okay. Yep, yep. So then they think, have we addressed every item except the working conditions? Is there one that we have not addressed?
The
School
school
day.
day, item 5B on page
On
9.
the school day, okay.
That's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yep. It's just working conditions and then school days, the subcategory, so.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you're
Yep,
all
okay.
talking about the same thing.
We're talking about the same thing. Okay, so, the issue there that we were talking about is the middle school lunch hour, when we move into the new middle school. The middle school lunch period is 45 minutes long. Yeah, go ahead, she went.
So I guess it's our understanding that the middle school has been working really hard on, developing kind of this new thing that we've never had before. And one of the possibilities that's come up in that discussion is that the optimal schedule may not allow for a 45-minute consecutive lunch for teachers. So we were hoping to allow them the flexibility by putting some language in there that would allow them to either have 30 minutes with 15 minutes later in the day, or 45 minutes, depending on what the middle school decides is best for their situation.
Mhm.
So you're asking to add something. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
what's going to be, if the middle school lunch period ends up being shorter than 45 minutes, like 30 minutes, we need to figure out what to do with that other 15 minutes. And so the teachers, well, if that's what the middle school decides works best for them, that other 15, they wouldn't have a 45-minute consecutive lunch.
Which is what's currently in the
Which is what
negotiated agreement.
they currently do. So we would be changing that and basically allowing the middle school the flexibility to look at that schedule and do what they decide is going to work out best. What we want to say, though, is we really appreciate how everyone has worked very, very well together at the middle school to come to different understandings and be flexible and work on this new concept that we've never done before. So that's something that I do want to say, but because a proposal has possibly come forward, we're not sure if this is exactly what they're looking at, but we want to be able to support that. Our negotiated agreement right now doesn't allow us to support that, so we need to change or add some language to the negotiated agreement to allow them that flexibility.
We're just looking for flexibility for them. We're not trying to
Yeah.
reduce everybody else's
Mhm.
lunch period or anything like that.
So what you would be proposing as language change would be only for the middle school, not for any other school.
Right. It could be something that would say, when this happens at the middle school, then this is how it would be handled. We would allow them to have flexibility. Now, on the other hand, if they figure out how to do their lunch and they have 45 minutes consecutive lunch, we don't, excuse me, put that down there. We don't need to even have this in the negotiated agreement, but it would be nice to allow them that flexibility without having the constraints of knowing that this is in the negotiated agreement and whether or not we are going to allow that to proceed.
Yeah, certainly the language can specify middle school. That way it wouldn't affect anyone else's schedules at all.
Is there any idea how well that this change has been received by the staff down there?
Well, our understanding is it's been a collaborative group of staff and administration has come together because they all are working on the schedule together. So it's our understanding this is one of the solutions that is being talked about to figure that out.
Yeah, I don't know that we have a sense of exactly how many people are really pushing for this or how many people are maybe hesitant. We just want to give them the option of doing it because it's our understanding that it may be the best choice.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have any questions? Should we knock something off? I did,
Right,
I
well,
closed it, or do you want to do some more of
Let's-
this?
No, let's get a 5-minute caucus. Can we do that?
Sure.
Should we do that now first?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Fay, 5-minute caucus.
5-minute caucus. Thank you.
Be in recess for 5 minutes.
Gosh, it's like my sisters have me text again.
You know you can opt out of those.
How do I do that? How do I get out of a group text?
When you open the message, there should be a little box in the upper right-hand corner. And you can choose if you want or silence or whatever you want.
My dots? I think a little bit. Okay, so this is
The details.
I can do
Yeah,
that.
this will only get notifications for this conversation.
Oh,
So
okay.
it just won't buzz anymore. It'll still show up in your feed if you want to look through. but
Okay,
it
so I'll
won't.
do that for right now since, I hate that when they do that. Actually, my daughter is in it with them, so now, of course. You did just. PLC.
It's supposed to. I've been going to meetings.
Last thing.
As I can, I'm having a hard time getting to it.
It's probably good that you're visible at those. So, we have these two left.
This is the only one that we've actually resolved.
Mhm.
So only one thing is gonna be right.
This is like ridiculous. That could be something that he should work on as time goes on, maybe, or something, too. It's okay. You did fine. I'm glad you did.
No, it would be something that we'd have to the first component was an assessment, but I don't know if it's special areas. I would say on the teacher. But if you have to have
No pocket.
Oh, no pocket.
That's why I never wear these shirts to school.
Which is smarter than I am.
Meeting will come back to order, please. Floor is open.
Mr. Chair and Mrs. Fair, Mrs. Ricks, well, before we start handing stuff out, would it be appropriate at this time to look at the agenda, and can we add possibly getting another item or two off the agenda? We have time.
What do you mean, taking
Well,
things
we
off?
have,
What do you
no,
mean?
well, discussing them, because we have a couple of ours ready to go, and some,
One of yours.
one of yours ready to go as well. So we got one of ours and one of yours ready to go. So if we can kick those off the table and put them on the tentative agreement, we would be tickled pink.
So, we're done, we're all satisfied that we're done talking or discussing topics. So now we could actually go to proposals.
Yeah, now we
That's
can
what you're
actually,
asking?
right.
Yeah, okay.
So,
I'm okay with that.
and we'll actually start with one of yours, if that's okay.
Well, maybe. Depends on which one it is. No, yeah, go ahead.
I
Oh, sorry.
told you that I would go, or I would call the state, so I did. I called and I talked to Clark Moulter at the state and asked them what the deal was, and basically they had reworked their requirements, and basically they didn't change the words as much as they added. Instructors shall have a minimum of 4 years, 8,000 hours of progressive work experience in the occupation to be taught within the past 8 years. So, and what Clark said basically was an individual has spent 4 years at Jiffy Lube in the pit. And not to be negative about those guys, but basically that wouldn't qualify as progressive work experience, and they wouldn't they wouldn't certify them to be an auto instructor because they didn't have the experience over the whole gamut of automotive technology. So in talking to him, then my thought was, and if I'd be so bold,
You didn't give me one.
I don't know what happened to it. Here it is. To just kind of do what like we did with continuing ed credits. Remember when we used to have to keep, there's district kept track of our continuing ed credits, and then we finally just said, well, if they hold a current license, they must have their credits, and they don't do that anymore. So I wrote some language, and if it's acceptable or change it or whatever, but it was a start. And it basically kicked it back. It said Vocationally certified teachers will be given up to 4 years of experience on the salary schedule for the appropriate CTE endorsement as issued by the North Dakota Education Standards Practice Board. And knowing that it would be at least 4 years of progressive experience, and that would take something off human resources shoulders, because they have their certificate.
It sounds like the CTE is doing it already.
Do you have a copy of that language, Dr. Sullivan?
I gave it to them, yeah.
Okay.
Did you not
We
give
don't.
me-
We don't have
We
the
don't have-
smaller
Oh, don't have that
copy.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, thank you.
So when I'm talking, when these guys are talking, I'm handing stuff out, so we gotta work on it.
Sorry.
Okay.
Just need Vince to review it, maybe.
Yeah, we probably need to have our human resources area review that. I mean,
I don't see a problem with it, but I'm not the expert on human resources, so.
Nor am I, it's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we could certainly have Mr. Reed take a look at it.
And the other part of that recruitment of highly qualified and experienced teachers was to allow new teachers to bring in 15 years rather than the 10 years from before. And I do know that we've had, and just had another little small discussion, there's gonna be some hurt feelings if we do it. And you all understand, we've had, some teachers in the last couple of years who came in with more than 15 years who did not receive that. And we're probably gonna hear from them if we do this. But it's good for the school district. It's good for the teacher coming into the school district.
Yeah, and we do understand that sometimes timing just isn't on your side. I don't know what else to say about that. And I would be frustrated if I were in those shoes, but I think what you said is important. It's good for what the school district needs right now.
And it is, and I think that we can, and obviously, just like when you say that you have to take everything back to your school board for their final approval, we have to take it back to DEA for final approval, but we're willing to take that back to DEA for the final approval.
Okay. So it sounds like maybe this is a topic we could put on our next agenda that we may be able to finish up next time after both parties have reviewed.
right, I think we need to review that language because it's all in the same paragraph. And Dr. Sullivan, you have something?
Well, I
on
just
that?
need some clarification so that I understand exactly what is it that DEA is requesting to insert into Roman numeral 12.
No, we're
Is
on-
it all of this?
No.
That is off the
This isn't
state
Roman numeral
board.
12 at all.
This is, we're on page 5.
Page, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, I'm really confused.
And this was off the state website.
It was just
So
information.
this was their
It would be,
experience
it would be
requirement.
a placement on salary schedule, and so we're agreeing to take to DEA an increase of up to and including 15 years, and then vocationally certified teachers would be following what we have in this statement. So we would change 10 to 15, and then add this statement where it says vocationally certified teachers will be given up to 4 years.
And so we would take out the part of the 8,000 hours of trade-in, because that's old now?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, and add to it for the appropriate CTE endorsement as issued by the North Dakota Education Standards and Practices
Okay.
Board.
Dr. Sullivan, is that something that the administration can look over and combine the language for the next time, or bring, if there's an issue, if we could have that for our next meeting?
We can.
Okay. I appreciate having this printout from the website.
Yeah, thank you. That was very helpful.
So
Okay.
for the status, we will add that to agenda for next meeting. As long as you're on there to number 12. We do have that. Based upon our discussion last time, when we tabled this before, clarification, definition, national certification, we tabled it on the 17th because there was some issues with language and adding different things. So we did go back and we added school psychologists, school speech and pathologists. I did also talk to counselors, and to my understanding, the counselors program is very rigorous and very expensive, and the people I talked to don't know if any of our counselors have that or not. At least at the high school they did not. And I'm not sure whether that's or not, but this is what I do have. Based upon our last talk there.
So I'm not sure that this is covered here.
Wait a second, I need one of those. Want that figure back.
That's
So what I did is we added the note that is existent in the item 12 right now on that. On page 13, which was one of the things that we added, we wanted added there, that is one time, it reoccurs, but it's not an additional 1,000 every year. So we did add that. We did add the fact that if they did receive certification, they had to provide that in written verification to central office prior to the last Friday, just like anybody else would in regards to wanting a lane change. And we added the teachers who were certified by the National Board, which was what we have currently, the National Association of School Psychologists, and the American Speech Language Hearing Association Certificate of Clinical Competence.
Well, we had also looked into this one and have some language for you to look at. So I'm going to I'll hand that to you, and then we'll explain. This is a little shorter. When you actually go look at that website, and I'm going to hand you these as well. We just printed this off from the national website. There are many, many areas of certification, and we thought perhaps that would simplify a lot of this. Rather than having people get certification by their different areas, you can get certification in quite a few areas on the National Board site. And there's different components to it. So we wanted to just submit that for consideration and thought, which we hadn't thought of this before.
So, not sure about that one.
Yeah, that's all right.
Currently, right now, if somebody were to come in with any of these national board certifications, to my understanding, they'd already be covered under our current policy.
I believe so.
Yes.
Okay. And I know you guys brought up, the school psychologists, and we brought up the American Speech, Language, and Hearing Association Certificate of Clinical Competence, which would not be covered in this.
Well, yeah, that
agreement.
was something I was thinking about. I wasn't sure how specific, for example, exceptional needs specialist is. I looked at some of the components, but still didn't give me an idea if you could choose, communication disorders specifically or anything like that. So it's something certainly to discuss.
That one you still wanted to research, that one?
Well, school counseling works for our counselors, but psychologists
we don't
are
know
their
about
own
the-
thing.
Yep, we're not sure about that.
So did you, when you were talking about counselors, were you
Mhm.
thinking of something different, or you were
That
thinking
was
of
not
this
part of this, it
certification?
was not part of this board certified, no. This was a different one that was, it was a 3-year, according to Mrs. Mack, it was a 3-year process that cost $2,500 and then $1,500 renewal.
Oh, wow.
And
Every 2 years? I
every
think
2
you said?
years, yeah.
Good
So
grief.
it was not something that they were going to pursue.
So it would have been a loss.
Yeah, it would have been a net loss for them.
Well,
This-
maybe this
this is
one would
possible,
be more
maybe.
reasonable, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good that that counseling option is there.
I would say maybe some research needs to be done. More
On these
additional
two?
on those two, yep, to see.
Just to make sure that we are treating everybody fairly. So do you want to just put that on the next agenda and come back with it again? Or
Probably, maybe, is this something that Vince or Cindy would research?
Vince is the one who brought up this.
Well, Vince is the one who brought
Yeah,
up the school
he's the one that-
psychologist, that didn't come from us. So if he wants to check into it, and also the SLPs, if what is on here would meet possibly, if we would accept it, if they would accept, is it, who's going to actually research that? Maybe you guys want to research it. And see if, I mean, does it meet what the needs are? You don't want people to go to training that doesn't apply just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
Because these
Absolutely, but
exceptional needs specialist, does that cover SLPs? We don't know.
We don't know, I guess I looked at the components, but it was unclear how far, if you could narrow your field and specialize and say, this, I cover these.
Well, I think that when we first looked at, the clarification of the national certification, part of it came out because our school speech and path people are required to have that advanced certification, even to be on staff here. And unfortunately, they're becoming more and more valuable in the, not to say real world, but in outside the educational
The real
field.
world.
And talking to them, I know that, many of them have been approached by outside agencies. And we want to keep them because they're very good. And this would be, they went the extra mile to get that certification because they had to.
Right.
Without it, we have no speech and language paths.
And those Cs can be in different specific areas, is that correct? Do you know?
For the SLPs.
Uh-huh.
It was a while ago that I talked to them. And I'm getting a head shake back there as a no.
No? No? I thought there were like early childhood and I don't know, maybe I'm just
No.
totally off in left field. Okay. I think that's a fair point. Mr. Fay. Yeah, I think we just need to run this by.
HR.
Yeah.
HR to make sure. Bring that back next time, Dr. Sullivan. Thank you. Okay. All right.
So are you looking to put that on the agenda for next
Yes,
time as
yep,
well?
Yep.
We should be able to get that taken care of.
So hopefully that'll be two, that'll be done next meeting. I think
Ready
so,
to
yeah.
go out. Mr. Chairman, could we just have a 5-minute recess, please?
Meeting is in recess.
Excuse me.
Oh, right, yeah, I'm there.
So we don't really want to talk about that.
Okay. But I thought maybe we were just wanting to inform them that like, how much it's gonna cost you guys to just do that. It's not a proposal, it's
Yeah,
just,
we can-
want
yeah.
to be aware.
Yeah.
I can't find where that was.
I
Is
have
that
it.
in that?
I have it right here, yeah. It's that one. So we could just mention it. I have it. Do you want to talk about that information?
I don't know.
I'm really prepared to talk about it.
I think that might make it combative right now too.
Mhm.
I just feel like, I don't know, so I guess we don't have it on its own little sheet.
No. So, I don't think we have anything else on. I think we just say we're not really prepared for anything else in this day. Mm-hmm. Yep. Maybe. Yep. Good. Yep, done. That's, I'm more comfortable that way. I just wanted to be sure. Okay.
Yeah, because we already gave proposals on these ones,
Mhm.
all these.
Mhm.
And we didn't give that one. That one, we're gonna do next week. That's kind of open-ended and like that, so, yeah, we want, which one is this?
Yeah. So what do we need to do
Oh,
with that?
Chris, you gave me one page too.
Oh, well, I guess we've got extras of those then. Okay.
Well, I think we need to see where this goes.
Mm-hmm. I think that should be like an overtopic in March. So if we do these other two things maybe. Or we'll talk about that one first.
To me, not.
Either way.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that would be fair since we didn't find that much about it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's right. Thank you for that.
Meeting will come back to order. The floor is open.
We're not prepared to talk about anything else unless you are. We don't have anything to present.
We don't
for
have any
anything.
more, yeah, proposals for
or
today.
anything.
Anything else?
I don't think we are.
No, I think we're,
Move on to debrief.
Yeah, that's fine with us.
Record.
Before I go through the debrief, there is one comment that as a chair I just want to make, that moving forward, any item that hasn't been settled or hasn't been removed for consideration, like what was the one you guys took out? Oh, retention of highly qualified and experienced teachers. All items are open for discussion and/or settlement moving forward. So we're not going to when we put the agenda together, I'm not going to specifically target any of them. I'm going to leave some of that to the discretion of the parties based on your previous discussions about where you want to go.
Fair enough.
Okay. And so moving on to debrief.
Dr. Sullivan, we're sorry, but I think it would help us to be prepared for the next agenda to know generally what we want to discuss. Because we still have lots of things out there. And, for example, we would like to discuss Superblock and find out more information next time. So I think it would be nice if Ms. Berglund was prepared that we're going to ask her lots of questions. That would be helpful to me.
And I think that she'd be prepared to answer those as she lives it
Right.
on a daily basis.
But I think also it might be helpful, like these things that we're specifically wanting to try and wrap up next time, potentially, like the recruitment one and the national certification one. It would be a good reminder for me to have them specified on the agenda.
Yes.
And then we could still have other topics
Talk about
listed
other.
that anything could fall under, but I don't know. I think that would be helpful for me.
Could we have a Roman numeral, Mr. Chair, of tabled items to be discussed or to be reviewed? You know, and that would include, because I have technically on my sheet here, we discussed recruitment of highly qualified. Technically we didn't table it, but we did say we would specifically add it as an agenda item. And then another one for new topics to be proposed.
I think we're past that, aren't we?
Or
New
proposals for topics.
On topics.
There you go.
New proposals?
New proposals.
On topics. Because you're right, the more tentative agreements we can add to the bottom of every sheet, the better it is for us.
It may help us to focus our discussion. If we know we're talking about Superblock, then let's bring our questions and be ready if we know.
Sure.
And then if we don't have the information on those two tabled items, we maybe wouldn't bring them up. We'd just say we still need to table them, but at least we're keeping our focus. And then I think, like we specifically want to talk about that topic, but then if there's other topics that come up, I'm fine with that, but I think there's things that we specifically want to do. We should put them on the agenda, maybe?
Okay. So under debrief, the remaining topics that had not been presented or discussed, management rights clause, super block, removing references to school board policy, definition of a teacher, and school day have all been presented. So the parties have all items that have been proposed for negotiations have been presented at this time. Information was handed out on removing references to school board policy, on titled names and acronymous items. There was a correction made to the minutes. Forgot to mention that. Information on national board certification. Both parties presented some possible language on that topic. And there was information presented on Roman numeral 2A, salary schedule placement. And a discussion about super blocks, albeit brief. And there was agreement that, you're going to have to help me with this part here, I didn't make very good notes. Super block would be a topic for next meeting, as well as what are the other items?
We said we would both bring back the recruitment of highly qualified experienced teachers, which is the placement on salary schedule
Roman,
issue.
yeah, Roman
Mhm.
numeral 2A.
And
Yep.
then the national certification link, which we would bring both of those back
Number
and
12.
hope to make an agreement on them next time.
Yeah.
Can we anticipate that we will also be able to come to some sort of understanding on financial information at the next meeting? Is that a reasonable expectation?
As I stated earlier, we will meet as a group, and we will come with our questions that we need to have verified and answered, and hopefully be ready to come to something.
Okay, so should we also list that on the agenda, financial information?
I think I'd like to have it listed.
That's all I had written down.
Yep, that's what I
Okay.
heard. And then it could be,
We need to then schedule the next meeting date and time.
I will not be back in town until late on the 12th of April. So it would have to be 13th or later.
The 13th.
Down to the day we have to get back.
I'm getting back on Monday night, so.
Oh, yeah, well, some people can't get flights as easily as others.
I'm gonna save a little bit of time.
Yep.
Next week doesn't work.
Okay, the week of the 18th then?
Oh, no, next week. Okay. Well, Monday does not work. We have school board meeting.
Yeah, we have a school board meeting Monday, so that doesn't work.
Tuesday is rough. Wednesday works.
Wednesday?
Thursday works.
20th,
Friday
Thursday,
works.
the 21st, and Friday.
We have for meets that weekend, that week.
Wednesday would be open.
It's Thursday, Friday.
So Wednesday?
14, 15.
No, it'd be,
I don't even
it'd
know.
be,
Make
it'd be
it Wednesday,
the
we don't have to worry about it.
20th, 21st, and 22nd. The
20th.
Wednesday is
20th,
my preference too, so if that works
Wednesday,
better
the
for you.
20th works best for coaches,
Okay, perfect. What time?
especially with track season, so dependent upon weather.
Mm-hmm.
It's always beautiful this time of year, don't you know?
What time are we looking at? 6 again?
Yeah.
6 works best for us.
6 sounds great.
21st?
The 20th, Wednesday the 20th?
Okay, the next meeting is
Okay.
set for April 20th at 6 PM. If there's no other business, meeting is adjourned.
Great, thank you.